the tourists excitedly snapped photos in front of the iconic landmark. Salar de Uyuni, the world's largest salt flat, stretched out in all directions like a vast, endless mirror. The blinding whiteness of the salt crust reflected the azure sky, making it hard to distinguish where the earth ended and the heavens began. It was surreal, like stepping into another world. I was one of those tourists. My name is Maria, and this trip to Bolivia was supposed to be a getaway from the mundane grind of my daily life. I wanted to lose myself in the beauty of nature, to find some peace and perhaps a bit of adventure. Little did I know, adventure had a different plan for me. It started innocently enough. On my second day at the flats, I joined a small group tour to explore some of the more remote areas. Our guide, a friendly Bolivian named Jorge, was full of interesting facts and stories about the salt flats. We stopped at various spots to take photos, marvel at the endless horizon, and bask in the tranquility. But even in this peaceful place, my unease began to grow. At first, I dismissed it as paranoia or maybe just the altitude playing tricks on me. But then I noticed him. At the edge of our group, there was a man I didn't recognize. He was always just out of focus, always at the periphery of my vision. When I tried to get a better look, he'd slip behind someone or turn away, as if intentionally avoiding my gaze. The first time it happened, I didn't think much of it. I figured he was just another tourist who had joined our group late. But as the day went on, I realized he was everywhere. Whenever I turned around, there he was. It was unsettling, but I told myself I was being silly. After all, the salt flats were a popular tourist destination. It was natural to see the same faces in a small group. By the end of the day, my nerves were frayed. We returned to the tiny hotel where our group was staying, and I decided to unwind with a drink at the bar. The dimly lit room was a welcome contrast to the glaring brightness of the flats. I took a seat and ordered a pisco sour, trying to shake off the strange feeling that had been following me all day. As I sipped my drink, I glanced around the room, and there he was again. This time, he was sitting alone at a table in the corner, his eyes fixed on me. A shiver ran down my spine. There was something off about him, something more than just his persistent presence. His face was familiar, but I couldn't place it. And those eyes, they were empty, devoid of any emotion. I tried to ignore him, but it was impossible. Every time I looked up, he was staring at me. I quickly finished my drink and went to my room, locking the door behind me. That night, I barely slept, my mind racing with thoughts of the stranger. Who was he? Why was he following me? The next morning, I decided to confront Jorge about it. I caught up with him at breakfast and described the man to him. Jorge frowned and shook his head. I didn't notice anyone like that in our group, he said. Are you sure he wasn't just another tourist? I don't know, I admitted. But he was everywhere we went yesterday. It was like he was following me. Jorge gave me a concerned look. We'll keep an eye out today, he promised. We set out for another day of exploration, and for a while, things seemed normal. I began to relax, thinking maybe I had imagined the whole thing. But then, as we walked across a particularly desolate part of the flats, I saw him again. This time, he was standing in the distance, watching us. I pointed him out to Jorge, but when he looked, the man was gone. The rest of the day was a blur of anxiety. Everywhere I went, I felt his eyes on me. That night, back at the hotel, I decided I couldn't take it anymore. I needed answers. I went to the front desk and asked if they had seen the man I described. The receptionist shook her head. "I'm sorry, but there's no one like that staying here," she said. Desperate and exhausted, I went back to my room. As I lay in bed, my thoughts kept returning to his face. Where had I seen him before? And then it hit me. He looked just like my childhood friend, Daniel. But that was impossible. Daniel had died in a car accident years ago. My blood ran cold as I realized the implications. Was I being haunted by Daniel's ghost? Or was my mind playing tricks on me? I didn't know what to believe anymore. The next day, I decided to cut my trip short. I couldn't take the constant fear and anxiety. As I packed my bags, I glanced out the window, and there he was, standing in the courtyard, watching me. I hurriedly finished packing and left the hotel, not daring to look back. As I waited for my taxi, I felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. I had come here to find peace, but all I had found was fear. As the taxi pulled away, I glanced out the window one last time. The man was gone. Maybe I had imagined it all. Maybe it was just the stress of the trip getting to me. When I returned home, I tried to put the experience behind me. But every now and then, I would catch a glimpse of him in a crowd, or see his reflection in a window. Each time, it sent a chill down my spine. I never told anyone about what happened in Bolivia. Who would believe me? But I couldn't shake the feeling that he was still out there, watching me. I tried to immerse myself in my work, in my art, hoping to find solace. I spent hours in my studio, splashing vibrant colors on the canvas, bringing my visions to life. It was the only way I knew to escape the haunting presence that had followed me from the salt flats. Even now, as I stand in front of my latest painting, I feel his eyes on me. The familiar stranger, always lurking at the edge of my perception. I don't know who he is or what he wants, but I know he's there, waiting. And that thought terrifies me more than anything else.